What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 5 of the Speak Up Sports Podcast with Cass, Chris, and Shad. What's going on, fellas?
What's going on?
Oh, what's up?
What's up? What's up, Ham?
Not much, man.
Good to see you, brother. Your little Nike polo on.
Yeah, I got your nice little Nike polo on, fresh off work, man.
Yeah, fresh off work, man.
Working man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. It was good to see y'all again for another week. We had a great week 4 of the NFL season. Today we'll obviously get into that, kind of revisit those games. We'll also get into the Dame Jrue Holiday trade as we gear up for the NBA season. We got preseason starting this week. And then finally, we'll go over, as usual, our weekly pick'ems, starting off with the Thursday game and some of the bigger games going on this week. But yeah, to go ahead and start, Jrue Holiday has been traded to Chris's team, the Boston Celtics.
Yes.
I'll go ahead and hand it over to you, Chris. What was your initial thoughts when you saw that you got Jrue Holiday, or y'all got Jrue Holiday?
Man, the first thought was like, who did we give up? That was the first thought, because it's just the circulation of just different information of what it would take to get him, and it was like, okay, I feel like we gave us somebody big. I mean, the trade worked out for both teams. You know, I personally like, damn, I really wish we didn't get rid of Robert Williams, but I kind of understand, with his injury history. But he was a big part of just our paint presence, as a big rim protector and a rim runner. But I love to pick up a Jrue Holiday. He brings just as much and even more than what Marcus Smart brought to us in general, as far as a defender, a leader of the team. But he also is a very good ball handler. He can, create, and that's something that Marcus Smart wasn't really good at creating. He was our point guard, but by default, but he wasn't a creator. We being honest, he didn't create much, and so I think that put us in a good position. I'm not going to say directly we should be the favorites in the East, but that matchup between us and Milwaukee going to go crazy.
Yeah.
If it makes it to that, but what did you think, Cass?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of thought the same thing as far as, the initial package, like what they gave up. Rod Williams is huge. And that's going to be a big loss because you're banking a lot on health of Kristaps Porzingis. And he's your only person over 6'10" on that roster, pretty much, or
when you Gabriel,
who was apparently a 7-footer all of a sudden.
I understand for the few people that doesn't watch the game, but Al Horford really is a defender against Giannis and Joel Embiid. It never has been Rod Williams. He was just there, to protect the rim in general, but. I mean, Al Horford's getting up in age. That is true, but I mean, he stayed consistent with guarding both of them, as good as anybody can guard them, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be. I mean, because you're looking at a lineup, you got Holiday. They're gonna start. I don't know who's gonna start. You're not gonna start Al, are you?
Coach Mazzulla like to do. It would definitely be Holiday, White.
Okay, and then Brown, Tatum,
AT, and Porzingis.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a solid starting lineup. Look,
it's gonna be interesting just because. Well, I mean, outside of the starting lineup, I mean, obviously, if you have a starting lineup of Jrue Holiday, Jaylen Brown, JT, I mean, you could stop there. You got a great starting lineup, and then obviously on top of that, you have Derek White, who's a great defender as he's shown the past year, and then Kristaps Porzingis he's kind of an unknown because I mean, he could either come out and be what everybody thought initially was the unicorn and whatnot. He's hitting from threes, also gets you in the post as well as being a dominant rim protector, or you can get the real Kristaps that we've seen, I guess, outside of that, which is somebody that's just kind of floating. He don't really make his presence felt. He's just another guy out there
sitting at the top of the key, checking up some shots, trying to get a rhythm.
Biggest thing is that the depth is gone, and now and maybe the Celtics might not have been overly, had the most. They're not the Nuggets in terms of the amount of depth that they've had. But I mean, now if you do have Derek White starting, it's like who's going to come off the bench at that point? I mean, you guys got Lamar Stevens from us. And he's all right, but I mean, is
They
that going to
still
be a
got
6-man?
they still
Peyton
got that boy
Pritchard?
Peyton Pritchard, yeah.
I feel that, but I honestly would say that for us in general, our depth only really matters. We only use our depth really during the season. Like when we get in the playoffs, we talking about heavy minutes for JB and JT. Like they barely come out. They come out for a spill here and there. So we go 7 at most of the time in the playoffs. More like really, we really went. Yeah, this past year we went 7.
But I would say that you guys go 7 due to the depth because there's nobody else that y'all want to bring or trust bringing in.
Yeah.
But I mean, with that being said, like I mean, you are right in that obviously during the playoffs, it's going to be regardless, it's going to be 7, 8, and then if you are like the Denver Nuggets where you just have a wealth of depth, then maybe you start getting in the 9, 10s, especially when you're blowing teams out like the Nuggets were. But I mean, so with that being said, where are you guys leaning now? With you mentioned it earlier with the Bucks. Obviously, they made the big trade for Dame, and then obviously the Celtics got Jrue. Where are y'all leaning in terms of the
hierarchy?
What
in the
looks
East?
like to be is the two matching up, Bucks and Celtics, and then everybody else is just kind of under that.
It's tough to say because I think Jrue would be a more seamless fit off rip, especially in the beginning of the season. Just simply, I mean, he's a plug and play guy. JB and JT. I mean, you basically got the same team. You just adding Jrue and Marcus Smart's role. Kind of. So it's like I think initially the Celtics would seem like the better team. I think the Celtics can have the better record, but I'm still rolling. Like I think Dame and Giannis, if it's how I think it is, which I'm still giving the time because we don't know, and then we gotta see the pieces around them and how everything works. But I like the fit with Milwaukee. I like that team better, going forward and coming out of the East. But I think it's gonna be great though. I can't wait for this.
I think it's more even than most people tend to believe, and especially with the fact that I think the thing is, like you said, Dame, that's kind of the unknown. Jrue is more so coming in just to fill a role to help them out, but Dame is supposed to come in and like I'm talking about have a bigger role, like a major role. And last year, I mean, they still got Chris Middleton, but I mean, as we seen last year, he was coming back from an injury. He never looked like he did when they won the finals.
He's still hurt right now. They said it today.
He's still hurt, yeah.
He's still working his way back.
Now it's like, okay, no, Dame is coming in to fill a major role, and it's like, okay, we have to see that.
Got to see
versus, like you said, Celtics, they still, depending on JT and JB, then bringing Holiday and Kristaps.
Yeah. What you think, Shot?
At this point, I still think I'm gonna go back to what I initially said about the Celtics and the depth. The Bucks didn't lose that many. I mean, they lost some players, but they picked up Malik Beasley, who, I mean, last year coming to the Lakers, you probably thought that he would fit seamlessly with LeBron, but it seems like everybody that come and start playing with LeBron under them lights, they all of a sudden can't shoot. So I figure Malik Beasley will somehow end up back being the regular 3-point shooter that we know and just all around scorer. But on top of that, you still got Bobby Portis. I mean, is he gonna make the jump after the USA?
Stop.
With the USA
Ain't no jumper for him, bro. He just got. He's solid though. I'm not gonna call him trash, but he's solid.
Excuse me. But yeah, I mean, you still got Bobby Portis. I mean, they picked up Robin Lopez, and got the Lopez brothers together. He ain't gonna do much, but he'll be a body. Drake Crowder, I think, will honestly be a lot better this year. Obviously, he went through the multiple different teams or whatever the hell he had going on last year. So that'll be something. Yeah. I don't know what that man had going on. But with that being said, I honestly don't. Y'all said kind of that y'all felt that Jrue would be a seamless fit for the Celtics, but I really think that Dame's probably going to be more the seamless fit because number one, Dame is Dame. He's a superstar. That's kind of something that they've been missing, and then they've also they're also bringing in a new coach. So a lot of the things that they've been doing is going to be, I mean, they're all learning together.
That's kind of why, because Adrian Griffin's coming in. That's kind of why I said it too.
Which is valid. But personally, I think that I mean, this is the first. You spoke a little bit about Marcus Smart, but Marcus Smart was kind of the guy that kind of ushered in the culture for the Celtics. So that's going to be a big shift for the Celtics. Missing Marcus Smart, who was there before Brown and Horford. Well, I think he was there before Horford got there,
Yeah,
but
he was there, but I guess my thought on that is Brown's been there a long time. He was drafted in 2016. That was
yeah, I mean, they've all been there for a minute, but at the same time, like, I just feel like they're from a leadership perspective, as you mentioned, that's a different role that both JB and JT are going to have to take on, or at least burden a little bit more than in the past. So that's also going to be a transition for them. And then just obviously, they've had these years. I mean, for the past seemingly like 6 years, they've been shuffling point guards or trying to replace Marcus Smart, bringing back Marcus Smart, trying to replace Kyrie, IT, goddamn Brogdon, whomever else. I think finally knowing that they're going to have somebody that's going to be in a permanent spot, I think that's going to be a major transition because obviously Jrue is going to have some stuff or ways that he feels that the team maybe needed to improve because they have a point guard now, and there's going to be things that they, obviously that's a major hole that they felt that they've had for, like I said, the past 5-6 years. That's all obviously something that they felt that they've been missing. So I think that's where we're going to see a lot of the things are going to change a little bit for both JB and JT in terms of how they attack, in terms of where they'll need to be, the spots that they need to be on the floor and stuff like that. So
that's why I'm glad, honestly, for both of them, for Dame and Jrue at this point, that Jrue didn't stick with the Blazers for too long, or that Dame didn't go into the season with the Blazers. So you're able to have this time right now for this next 3 weeks.
So that's a good chunk of time,
to work. So you got this training camp. Yeah, you got the training camp. You got the beginning of the season, which is everybody trying to figure themselves out. So you got that kind of time to play around. Like if Dame would have got traded mid-season with the Blazers All-Star break, this shit we wouldn't have the expectations that we do. It wouldn't have been the same. That's why I don't really like. We saw a little bit with KD last year. He got traded mid-season. He got hurt. It didn't come together how it should have. You know what I mean? So I think that, along with like I did mention, like the new coach, new system, like all that is definitely important. And I think like I get the Marcus Smart, factor of it. But I also like they didn't get over that hump. So I think they did need a change. You know what I mean?
And also, there's also one more thing that, we didn't talk about, but are the Celtics going to go through a new transition with basically a new coach? Because Mazzulla came, that all happened very quickly right before the season.
Within weeks from, we going in the training camp with
Ime, and then that happened. So now that we're in a new year, it's obviously a whole new offseason. Are we going to see where Mazzulla now starts to usher in some things that he wanted, as opposed to, because maybe he didn't necessarily obviously he didn't expect to be in that position. So maybe after a year, there are some things that he feels like after being in the seat for an entire year, going through the trials and tribulations that he's had, because obviously, he's been, the main point of criticism for the Celtics over the past year. So maybe there's some things that he wants to change in the new system that he wants to bring in ways that he thinks that could be different. So that's also something to watch as well.
I got one question. This wasn't what we talked about, but what do y'all think about, like, as far as like the Heat in general? Like, you were supposed to get Jrue Holiday, you were supposed to get Dame Lillard. Yeah, he said he wanted to go there this whole entire time.
Yeah.
And then you lose out on him, then turn around and say, "Oh yeah, we're going to let's go get Jrue." You lose out on him. Like, does that say something about the Heat culture in general, or that just the Blazers general manager like, I'm not about to do what y'all want me to do?
I think for me, the Heat are starting to become the new Celtics, because for a while it was always the Celtics are going to make a move. The Celtics have all these picks to do X, Y, Z. They're going to go get Giannis, or there was a point in time years ago they were going to go get Porzingis or KD, or go get whatever next best star is between them and the Knicks. But it's definitely, in my opinion, not a good look for them, because and it's tough to say because clearly they have made the finals 2 out of the last 3 years, I think, or at least been in the Eastern Conference Finals 2 out of the last 3 years, 3 out of the last 4 years.
Yeah, they won 2020 and then this.
So two out of the last 4 in the finals. Yeah,
but they've been in they've been to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Eastern Conference Finals 3 out of the last 4, I believe. Yeah. Okay. So obviously, I mean, they can hang their hat on that. They've clearly put together some good runs, unexpected run. Well, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say all of them were unexpected because one year they were the 1 seed. But with that being said, their talent is obviously is lacking in terms of, and there's only so many times that you can keep going back to, we'll develop XYZ players, whether that be draft picks, and in recent history it's been a lot of undrafted guys, but clearly going to the finals twice and losing both times where even though the series the Denver series wasn't that close. Clearly it wasn't close at all. The Lakers series, it did go 6. It was not a close series at all, aside from that one game that Jimmy Butler, obviously went toe-to-toe with Bron. So clearly you needed to do something to take yourselves over get yourselves over the hump. And at this point, Jimmy is only getting older. He's 34 years old.
That's what
I'm a Jimmy fan, but ultimately what we've seen from Jimmy out of the playoffs versus what he is, it's hard for me to say. Some people are always like, they perform in the playoffs. That's all that matters. For me, yeah, that is something that matters, but I can't bank on you jumping from a 19 point per game score, 20 point per game score to banking on you to be 30, 28, 29. You're going from being a mid-level star, I wouldn't even say all-star or superstar, mid-level star, all-star, to being looked at as a top 10, top 5 player. I cannot bank. Me personally, I don't want to bank on that. I just don't see that being realistic every year. Right. So I can see them being in the same position where they were this past season, where they are 8, 9, 10 seed and fighting to get in. So
that's what I was gonna say, Chris. I agree with 100% with what Shad said. This team, and you saw it last season, they don't value the regular season enough. They have older players now, and Kyle Lowry is 37 now. Jimmy's getting older. Of course, you got a couple. You got Bam, you got Tyler. They're young. I get that. But they lost Gabe Vincent. They lost Strus. And they didn't get anybody in to move the needle. They did draft young boy. I forgot his name.
Jaime.
Yeah. So we'll see what he does in his rookie season there. But if he even has enough of a chance to really come forward, but I don't think this team values the regular season enough. I would not be surprised, and this might be a hot take. I don't know, but they should have missed the playoffs last year, and I would not be surprised if they missed the playoffs this year.
They were 2 minutes away from us.
I don't believe in the team. I get they are the reigning Eastern Conference champions, which is
and it's
cool.
hard to say.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard. But they don't value the regular season enough for me to put any stock into this team, and I can see them missing the playoffs for sure.
Not to cut you off, but you also did. We said they're getting older. We mentioned Jimmy and Kyle Lowry. They also got my guy Kevin Love there being their starting power forward after, and he gave them great minutes last year. But he looked like a shell of himself throughout the entirety of the past 2 years. Obviously, I'm a Cavs fan, so I watch a lot of their game, a lot of Cavs games, or really all of them. But Kevin Love. He was on the bench. He was a bench. He was a major loss for us ultimately. But I mean, he was not getting playing time, and then went to Miami because of some of their injuries, and ultimately became a starter. Mm-hmm. And that's just at 35. I mean, and I don't know if it's the 35 going on 36 this year, but Kevin Love being your starting power forward, I just food. Food.
Yeah, so Miami is kind of they really took a step. They needed a little home run like this, in my opinion. They needed
big time.
They needed a big player like this to continue, but they didn't get it. It's gonna be rough.
Gonna be interesting.
It's gonna be interesting for sure. But
what
do y'all think? Let's get to that real quick, because we seeing a lot of stuff about this James Harden situation, right?
That's what I was about to say as well.
So of course there was a thread that he was going to hold out of camp. He missed media day, which is probably smart, so he don't have to answer questions. Smart for the team too, honestly. But he did end up, rejoining the team. They're here in Colorado State, up in Fort Collins practicing. The reason for that is to avoid, any distractions, and then get used to work out in the altitude, which will help. But again, James Harden himself is a distraction. So of course media is coming and all this is going on. But he seemed to participate in practice today. And, this on the surface things look okay, but it's a lot going on with that man. What are y'all thoughts on that?
You want to take it away, Chris? Go ahead. I ain't got too much words for this man.
What he did in Houston, man. He came to Houston like, man, y'all gonna have y'all. I don't know. I just think maybe he is not really mature, but still does I'm gonna just come to work. You know what's up. You just gonna have to trade me eventually because from what I've been reading, he's just gonna make it uncomfortable for everybody. But he's still showing that, I'm gonna stay in shape. I'm not gonna get out of shape. I'm gonna still do what I need to do, but I'm not trying to be here. So in my opinion, they just might as well go ahead and find him a trade suit and just trade him. It's no point of just trying to work this out because
it ain't gonna get better, and then you're gonna lose it for nothing.
And honestly, at this point in time of the season, obviously, I don't want to say Dame's trade didn't get too much. Obviously, Dame's I think he's a little bit older than James. But at this point in the season, everybody's team is pretty much set. Everybody's team is set. Yeah. Obviously, there's a lot of the guys that re-signed or signed new contracts in some of these in different places or with their current team. They can't be traded till I think December or after. Yeah. So, they can't be traded for another 2-3 months. So at this point, it's what are you really trying to accomplish, James Harden? Are you said the idea for the past 2 years or a couple of years is that you've been saying that you're all in, you're supposed to be this team player. You took a step back so that Kyrie and KD could eat. You obviously said that you took a step back for Joel Embiid. Then in that contract year or when your contract came up, you took a pay cut so that they could sign PJ Tucker and sign House and whomever else that you guys felt or that they felt was necessary to get them to the championship. And obviously that's kind of the point of contention right now between the contract for him. But it's ultimately what are you trying to do? Because like I said in the last episode, I think the Clippers would be if he's going to go somewhere, I think the Clippers would be a better fit for him than some of the other places that have been mentioned. And obviously that's his number one or quote unquote reported number one destination. But ultimately, does anybody think that him with the Clippers, as regardless of who they give up, unless it's PG or Kawhi, obviously the two mains, does anybody really think they're going to be competing for a championship? Is that really your best option? Is it a better option for you as opposed to sticking where you are in Philly? And then I saw, Stephen A came out and said on First Take that he was originally going to sign a max contract with Houston up until he told Ime that he wanted to get back to winning scoring titles or something. So it's
what? Shit was cap.
Yeah, I think it was cap too. But you never know. I don't want to knock Stephen A because obviously he can walk into any arena.
Yeah, he know people now. He know people, but I don't know about that one right there.
Yeah, it just seems like
no, I get what you're saying though about what are you trying to do, James? He tried to play this card, and I think
multiple times.
I think Daryl Morey kind of won the battle, which is really pissing him off at this point in time. Because it's now I'm not trading you, dude. I'm not going to get less than what we need to continue and being a elite force in the East. And I think this Dame and Jrue trade to the Bucks and the Celtics didn't do James any favors because now you cannot mess up with this trade if you're Morey or you're just done. You're done. It's a wasted year. So
you lose Joel supposedly.
So James in a tough spot. I think honestly I'm at the point now, which I do like the Clippers, of course. I want them to do well, but I think James is better off just sticking it with the Sixers at this point. Just buckle down, work what you got. You got a new coach in there which they came out and said today. A couple of the players there came out and said that they're excited about the new system that they're bringing in on offense. How it'll be more free flowing compared to what it was with Doc, which I don't know if James will like, but that's a whole nother story. But I think just stick it out there.
Yeah, and this is something that's very unlikely to happen, obviously, because it's within conference. But I mean, to go back to our conversation with Miami, bring him to the Heat culture. You get send Tyler Hero back and maybe another piece. I mean, maybe that could work as a contending team that he can go to. But aside from that, I mean, the Clippers, the Heat, maybe. I mean, I guess you can put the Lakers in there, but I mean, I don't see the Lakers trying to come off of some of the guys that they signed for James. What other
teams? There are none, and then you're coming up on free.
Would have been another team possibly,
maybe, but you're coming up on free agency, and not a lot of good teams that are worth going to will have cap space. So like you gotta play the situation right if you're James Harden. That's why I think he ultimately went to camp today and got his shit together. But
another team maybe, but do they really want these leadership issues as New Orleans? I mean, they could send CJ back. You got James, but I don't know. Do BI and James like each other? Because then he one day about to get into it. That one day where CP3 and Rondo ended up getting into it.
Oh yeah.
And my boy Nip. Rest in peace, Nip.
Yep. I was ready to go. Yes, I don't know, man. James gonna be James though. I mean, you see this third time. He's quote unquote, trying to quit on the team. So yeah, it's rough. You too old for this shit now at this point.
We'll start. Like I mentioned earlier, we have our first preseason game tomorrow at noon Eastern. Yeah. And then we're really going to get, as the next week gets into it, we're going to really start getting in the swing of things with the NBA season. And we can kind of use that as a foreshadowing to our NBA preview in the next couple weeks.